Hey, Teddy K here for the Best Buy blog, and in this video we're taking a look at the ASUS Zenbook DUO, available at Best Buy now, a dual screen OLED laptop that has a lot going for it. There's an old adage that suggests that two of anything is better than one, and in the case of a laptop like this, the Zenbook DUO, I would tend to agree. This is a laptop that I first saw in December of 2023 before it was even announced, and at the time, I was impressed with the design. I was impressed with how it looked, how it felt, but I didn't know how it performed. And after spending 2.5 months with it, I now have a really good idea what you can expect from it as well. The main feature set here is the fact that you have two screens. So this is a dual screen laptop, two OLED displays, which again, has been done before. That's not new. The concept has been done before, but as to how well it's been done, well, that's an open question regardless of what, which model you're talking about. In this case, though, there are a lot of just good things going on here, especially from a multitasking standpoint. So this is not a gaming laptop. I'm just going to get that out of the way right away. You are not getting this for any kind of gaming. I know it might feel appealing because you have two displays that you might make use of, especially that they're OLED, but no. The power under the hood is not designed for that. This is more for productivity. So you can certainly consume content with it too. I will show you that as well, but it's all about getting things done, and especially using screen real estate to your advantage in order to see two things at once. In order to pull this off, ASUS had to figure something out with the keyboard. And so this keyboard is essentially a layer that goes on top of the second display and can work independent of the device with a Bluetooth connection. There are pins at the bottom that keep it charged when you have it docked, but you can also charge it independently as well because it has its own USB-C port. This is very advantageous for a number of reasons, not least of which is because you can then decide how you want to use the keyboard, where you place it, where you place the screens. There's no one set way of doing these things. You can set up this device any way that you please, really. And it also depends on you and what it is you want to do. In my case, I do a lot of word processing, a lot of photo stuff, photo editing. So to run Photoshop and Lightroom on two separate screens is very, very advantageous for me personally. You might have a workflow that works for you as well. Maybe you're into coding, maybe you're into something else that might be creative. Certainly for creative pursuits, I can see real advantages in using this. Bear in mind though that the graphics, the GPU is not going to be as strong as some other laptops that are more focused, let's say on video editing. You'll manage here, you'll do okay, but just bear in mind that you might run into some limitations that way. I found that it was actually pretty robust. Even, the Intel chip, it's a Core Ultra 7. As far as the review unit I had, there apparently will be a higher spec variant of this coming later this year, but for now, this is what you have. And I would say for most instances, it will run everything very, very smoothly. What I also like though, is that you can control a lot of what you want to do, especially with the two screens. This is where the keyboard again comes into play because there are shortcut keys along the F keys that you can utilize to either switch displays, so if you want to top to bottom, bottom to top, things like that, or if you want to extend the screen, you want to duplicate it, that sort of thing. All that is very easy to do when you press the right keys. ASUS also has its own, the My ASUS application that's already built in, where you can adjust various different things when it comes to the settings that are specific to the device itself. All of which is pretty straightforward and easy to understand because there are explanations for just about everything. So if you're new to the concept of what this is, you're not gonna have a hard time really getting around or really getting used to it, because I feel like it's just kind of set up for either beginners or seasoned users. When it comes to placement and it comes to just how you set this up, it's very simple because you have the kickstand in the back. That's at the bottom of the device. So at the bottom of the laptop, you got a kickstand, you kick that out, and that way you can use it, well, you can just prop it up, and because the screens will lay down at a 180-degree angle, you have a lot of flexibility there, literally, as to how you place it. I will caution though that if you are to set this up in a portrait orientation like this, for example, I'm not showing the second screen, but you get what I mean, it's not quite as intuitive that way. I thought it would be when I first saw it, but I didn't like it as much. So even though there were situations where I was working on photos that were in portrait orientation and that setup would have worked for me, Unfortunately, applications don't necessarily do very well in that orientation, and so I felt that it was a little bit disjointed and it wasn't really for me. You might feel a little differently though if you try it for yourself. So we've got some power, we've got some performance here. We have the makings of a solid laptop. How long is it going to last though? Battery life is one of those things that, of course, is going to be hugely affected by the fact that you have two OLED displays. And I got about 7 hours plus with both screens enabled, not at max brightness, of course. You maximize the brightness, it'll definitely be lower than that. With a single screen like this, as I've laid it out here, you're definitely gonna go north of 10 hours in most cases. Again, screen brightness is gonna be a huge factor regardless of whether it's one or two screens. So just bear that in mind when you're using something like this, that it's all gonna be relative, right? Now the screens themselves, because they're OLED, are very nice, very visual, like vibrant displays. Colors might be a little saturated, especially if you're into photos. You might find a little bit, the colors might be slightly off from what you're used to. You can use calibration tools to get around that, but just bear that in mind also when you initially take it out of the box, or if you're looking at it in a store, that something might not seem perfect, at least to your eyes right then and there. But I gotta say, to summarize, this is not a laptop that does any one particular thing in an exceptional way. So it's not like it runs certain software far better than others. No, it's the concept alone. It's the hardware concept that really works here. You have two Thunderbolt 4 ports. You want to have two screens here, you can add two more by plugging in to the ports. You have an HDMI port as well. So you can expand this into a far larger setup, especially in a desktop environment. So if you have monitors and you're thinking of ways to integrate this, that won't be a problem at all. A couple of downsides though, I will point out, the audio, the speakers are kind of mediocre, I think, for a laptop of this caliber. I mean, they're fine, but I don't know. I wasn't overly impressed. It's a Harman Kardon system. I would have expected something a little more, I don't know, just a little more resonant than this is. So the speakers, they're okay. The trackpad is very nice. I don't know, I had a bit of a love-hate relationship with it over time though. At times I felt it was a little too responsive, at other times it wasn't. It feels great to the touch. I just wish that it had, it was able to do a little bit more. Oh, what have we got here? Now it is a touchscreen as well, so obviously you can basically, touch and use it as a touchscreen. That goes for both screens, of course, so you can touch both however you need, and they both work with the ASUS Pen 2.0. I did not have the pen, so I was not able to try this out with it, and so I can't tell you exactly how that would work or how precise it would feel, but certainly I would think for anything that requires just that extra precision, especially when you have two screens to work with, it's very nice. Sturdiness is also something I'll point out in a good way, and one that you might want to consider. The hinge is very sturdy, so even if you prop it up, it's going to be fine. And the kickstand also is quite sturdy as well. So this isn't a device that's going to flop on you necessarily. However, if you are looking to write on it with a pen, you're looking to apply pressure on it, I think that's where you're going to need to find something that's going to feel a little more comfortable and stable. In addition, if you are to lay this flat in a 180-degree angle, you can also share a screen with someone who's sitting opposite you. This is pretty cool and does have its advantages. Of course, you're both going to have to be hunched over looking at the screens, but it is what it is, because obviously this doesn't go back a full 360 degrees, so you can't set it up like a tent in that regard. An understandable limitation, but one of those things that you might want to consider, because there are alternatives that do that. And that's my review of the ASUS Zenbook DUO, available at Best Buy now. You can check out more about it by just clicking that link below. For the Best Buy blog, I'm Teddy K. Thanks for watching.